This little area is called Mason's Yard, and the first place of interest is the club down the bottom there, now called the Rector's Lodge Club. The 1960s is called the Scotch of St James's. Very popular amongst the rock stars of the day. All the main groups had their own table at the Scotch, including the Beatles, where no one else allowed to sit. Had a brass plaque to say which group had which table. Lots of people played there too. Jimi Hendrix's Experience gave their first ever concert there in 1966. Very important place for that reason alone. The three members of the club are called Barry Miles, Peter Asher and John Dunbar. They did start their own arts gallery and bookshop. Over a drink at the Scotch, notice number 6 Mason's Yard. This place, now called James Hyman Fine Art, was empty. They opened it here. They called it the Indica Arts Gallery. Everyone thought at the time they got the name Indica from the first exhibition, called Indications. Indica is a form of marijuana, cover hit place. This picture was taken and was setting up the gallery to recognise the guy on the end here. Yes, Paul McCartney. Paul's a very early supporter of the gallery. In fact, even argued open about Paul's help, because Paul at the time living in the same house as Peter Asher, was dating Peter's sister Jane, because Peter was part of Peter and Gordon, the famous duo of the 60s. And Peter and Paul were great friends of each other. Paul donated lots of money to the gallery, could have been in the first place. They even drew this map on how to get to Mason's Yard too, to involve Paul McCartney was. At the time, John Lennon was living out in Weybridge with his wife Cynthia and young son Julian. And I think that John felt rather isolated. What's going on in London at that time? It's really through Paul that John became interested in the gallery. It's John that came along here, remember the night from 1966, see an exhibition of unfinished paintings and objects by Yoko Ono. John was very keen to view the exhibition, so on the invite he got, there's going to be a happening in a bag. To which John thought, ha-ha, sex. Very keen to come along. What he saw when he got here, though, was something rather different. One of the first objects was an ordinary fresh apple on a stand. And John was amazed that Yoko was charging £200 for an ordinary fresh apple. He's very amused by this. But Yoko wasn't amused when John went over and picked up the apple and took a great big bite out of it. A very expensive bite out of the apple. Another thing that John saw was a thing called a ceiling painting, consisted of a step ladder, a magnifying glass hanging from the ceiling above. The idea is to go up the step ladder and really stretch out with the magnifying glass onto one word on the ceiling. That one word was yes. And apparently John thought he was really pleased to something positive to him, so he stayed around. But by this time, John Dunbar had spotted John Lennon and brought Yoko to meet John for the first time. John asked Yoko where the action was, which Yoko gave John a card, just said, breathe on it. So John went and gave it back. Another thing he saw was a thing called painting to hammer and nailing. Consisted of a wooden board on the wall and a jar of nails by the side. The idea is to hammer and nail into the board and make a wish. Well, John went to hammer and nailing, but Yoko stopped him. The day before the exhibition opened to the public. Just the nails in the board, or the public were allowed in. Well, John Lennon was getting... John Dunbar was getting a bit worried by this time, so hoping that John Lennon might buy some of Yoko's exhibits, even spot some exhibitions. But Yoko wouldn't let John hammer and nail in. So John Dunbar took Yoko to one side and said, that guy's a millionaire, let him hammer and nail in, he might buy something. Yoko came back over and said to John, OK, you can hammer and nail in, want to give me 5 shillings to do so. So what, 25 pence in today's money? To which John said, I've got any money with me. It's an imaginary 5 shillings, hammering an imaginary nail. That's when their eyes met, they said after that. Of course they fell in love, and of course the rest, as they say, is history. I should say that Yoko Ono said in an interview recently, she's going to be in London today. It's the first time she's been away from New York on the anniversary of John's death. I don't know where she is, but whether she'll come here sometime today, who knows? I know she's been back here at least once or twice since her meeting John as a sort of a nostalgic trip.